We're going to start tonight by talking about this young woman who's been all over right-wing media this week because of an essay she wrote for her college. And that is not a normal reason to be in the news. So what the hell did she do that makes everything just go viral? So this woman's name is Samantha Fulnecky. She is a conservative student at the University of Oklahoma. And she says she's the victim of religious discrimination because she got a failing grade on a homework assignment. And you can be the judge in just a moment of whether or not she deserved a failing grade. So here's what happened. And let's try to go chronologically here because there's so much happening in this particular story. She is a psych major at the University of Oklahoma. She's a junior. She is pre-med. She wants to be a doctor. And she was taking a class called lifespan development. It's about development throughout your life. Nothing weird about that. And I guess at some point in this class, the professors or the instructors, like the grad school instructors for this class, said they're going to read a decade-old article called Gender Typicality, Peer Relations, and Mental Health. And I have like 100 tabs open. If I can get this one to open, I will show it to you. But it's basically a decade-old research paper. And basically the assignment went like this. We want you to read the paper and just react to it. Have a discussion about what that paper said. And there's a lot of ways you could do that. You could respond and say, I disagree with the researchers' conclusions. I think they did not go far enough in their methodology. Or I think I see what their conclusion was, but I have an issue with it for these reasons. And all of those are legitimate things to be upset about if you were reading a paper like this. But if you're curious, the paper in question basically showed that students who are gender typical, they are born male, they look like men, whatever, or they're born female, they look female, what have you, they tend to be perceived as more popular, and that boys who are gender atypical suffer worse mental health outcomes. Now, as with a lot of papers, if you asked me to guess how that paper would have gone, that is the conclusion I would have come to. But it's always interesting to see how researchers try to quantify this and prove it and things like that. Now, the assignment in question said students can talk about anything regarding this paper. They could talk about whether the issue was even worth studying, how they connected to the research, or maybe they did not connect to the research, how the study related to other areas of interest, maybe alternative explanations of what the researchers found, whatever. Basically, the teachers did not care what the students said. They just wanted students to seriously grapple with the article they had to read. Read it, think about it, react to it, show us that you have the ability to work with these ideas. The rubric literally said, and I'm quoting here, the best reaction papers illustrate that students have read the assigned materials and engaged in critical thinking about some aspect of the article. So that was pretty straightforward. I also want to show you one other thing here, which is at the very bottom, right over here. This is the rubric for the assignment, and I just want to draw your attention to the very bottom here. I'll remove myself. Look at the last 3 lines. This is what they were going to get graded on, 25 points. Does the paper show a clear tie-in to the assigned article? Does the paper present a thoughtful reaction or response to the article rather than a summary? And is the paper clearly written? That's 25 points right there. That's what the assignment was, not an issue. So, Fulnecky, she didn't connect her essay to the article. She didn't react to anything that was in it, anything that it actually said. And the best thing that I could tell you about her writing is that I think she would have deserved a very good score if she wrote it in 2nd grade. So what happened is she turns in her essay. she gets a grade of 0 out of 25. And honestly, that's kind of generous. So here's what I can do. I'm going to show you her entire essay because you better believe this was posted online. And you can decide if I'm being overly critical or not here. But you tell me, do you think this person deserved a 0 out of 25? All right, here we go. Again, they had to read this research paper and react to it. Here's what Samantha wrote. And I'm jumping down right here. Let's read it together, shall we? It's a 2-page paper. This article was very thought-provoking and caused me to thoroughly evaluate the idea of gender and the role it plays in our society. Not a bad start, I guess. Like, if it's thought-provoking, I'm very curious what provoked you. Though I would also say that's the sort of opening you could write to anything about this topic. It has nothing to do with the paper. The article discussed peers using teasing as a way to enforce gender norms. I do not necessarily see this as a problem. Okay. I mean, I guess that's a reaction, but man, you're opening your paper and you're like, you know what I like? Bullying. Anyway, God made male and female and made us differently from each other on purpose and for a purpose. God is very intentional with what he makes, and I believe trying to change that would only do more harm. Gender roles and tendencies should not be considered stereotypes. Women naturally want to do womanly things because God created us with those womanly desires in our hearts. That is such a crazy sentence. I want to read that one more time. Let's do it together, shall we? Women naturally want to do womanly things because God created us with those womanly desires in our hearts. Womanly. The same goes for men. Men are also womanly. God created men in the image of his courage and strength, and he created women in the image of his beauty. He intentionally created women differently than men, and we should live our lives with that in mind. Let's just pause there for a second. What have we learned so far about the article she was supposed to read? The answer is nothing. I learned nothing about the paper she was supposed to read. I know a lot about what she thinks about trans people or people who are gender nonconforming. I don't actually know much about what she learned in the paper. Like, she's reacting to the word trans. She is not reacting to the paper she was supposed to be reading. You get the idea here? This is why this is a very strange article. She doesn't mention the title of it. She doesn't quote from it. There's no indication she read anything beyond the title and the abstract, right? Like, she jumps right into what the Bible says as if she's delivering a sermon. And what's weird to me is that even bad Christian writers, when they're quoting the Bible, they will always cite chapter and verse. She doesn't even bother doing that. Like, the issue isn't that she's proselytizing in an essay, it's that she's giving a generic anti-trans response when the question was to respond to a very specific paper. Anyway, she claims the article caused her to thoroughly evaluate the idea of gender and the role it plays in our society, but the essay doesn't show us any indication of this thought-provoking that happened. The most surprising thing about that opening is that the first line was not Webster's defines gender as ... So that was just the beginning. And maybe you think, well, she has to get more detailed in the rest of the paper, right? No. Let's read the next paragraph. It is frustrating to me when I read articles like this and discussion posts from my classmates of so many people trying to conform to the same mundane opinion so they do not step on people's toes. Everyone's trying to conform to the same mundane opinion, which is that people deserve respect. Is that apparently a very boring opinion that you're like, oh, I'm so bored. All these people want civil rights. And you think they all are saying that because they don't want to step on people's toes? Or maybe they're saying that on the off chance that maybe they actually believe people deserve civil rights? I think that is a cowardly and insincere way to live. It is important to use the freedom of speech we have been given in this country, and I personally believe that eliminating gender in our society would be detrimental, as it pulls us farther from God's original plan for humans. I didn't know I wanted to eliminate gender, but thank you for telling me. By the way, I know someone has pointed this out in the comments. How come when this Samantha woman is going to a new paragraph, why isn't there an indentation? Nothing? You just go to the next paragraph and start writing? Okay, that is weird. What else does she say here? It is perfectly normal for kids to follow gender stereotypes because that is how God made us. The reason so many girls want to feel womanly and care for others in a motherly way is not because they feel pressured to fit into social norms. It's because God created and chose them to reflect his beauty and his compassion in that way, which is why they feel pressured to do that stuff. Like, does she not see the contradiction in that? In Genesis, God says that it is not good for man to be alone. So he created a helper for man, which is a woman. Many people assume the word helper in this context to be condescending and offensive to women. By the way, at this point, we're so far strayed from the paper she had to read. Like, now we're just stream of consciousness. What did they tell you in church on Sunday? However, the original word in Hebrew is ezer kenegdo, and that directly translates to helper equal to. Is that proper grammar? I don't know. Additionally, God describes himself in the Bible using ezer kenegdo, or helper, and he describes his Holy Spirit as our helper as well. This shows the importance God places on the role of the helper, women's roles. God does not view women as less significant than men. He created us with such intentionally and care, and he made women in his image of being a helper and in the image of his beauty. What the hell did I just read? I feel like there's a missing word or three and maybe a comma somewhere that I should have read. I don't know anymore. What's happening? If leaning into that role means I am following gender stereotypes, then I am happy to be following a stereotype that aligns with the gifts and abilities God gave me as a woman. First of all, who said she's following gender stereotypes? She's quoting something that I don't know where she got it from. If she's quoting something, tell me where you're getting it from. That's how citations work. What is happening here? This thing makes no sense. She almost offered some actual substance right up front when she said, I don't agree with the article or what my classmates said in our discussion post, but then she never bothered telling us which things she disagreed with that were said. She just went right back to her sermon, going on a tangent about gender roles, which, again, has nothing to do with the paper she was supposed to read. Like, if this is a reaction to a paper on trad wives, okay, maybe we're getting somewhere, but it's not. No one cares what she thinks about the role of women. That's not the assignment. And if you're going to argue that women are predisposed to feel womanly and care for others in a motherly way, I think you should have to explain why so many people, including a lot of Christian women, disagree with you. She didn't bother doing that. All right, we're almost done here, but we got a couple hundred more words to go. By the way, I see this comment. She's quitting ChatGPT. I wish she used ChatGPT. Maybe she would have offered something of substance. But anyway, let's go to the next unindented paragraph. I do not think men and women are pressured to be more masculine or feminine. I thought that's what God wanted. I strongly disagree with the idea from the article. This is good. This is a good start. That encouraging acceptance of diverse gender expressions could improve students' confidence. Look, that's a great sentence. Now explain what the paper said and why you disagree with it. What does she do? Society pushing the lie that there are multiple genders and everyone should be whatever they want to be is demonic and severely harms American youth. That's cute. Who cares? The paper didn't say that. That's just you riffing. Also, society says everyone should be whatever they want to be. I don't know. Where are you getting this from? I do not want kids to be teased or bullied in school. Girl, you opened up your paper by saying, I don't think teasing people is a big deal. However, pushing the lie that everyone has their own truth and everyone can do whatever they want and be whoever they want is not biblical whatsoever. The Bible says that our lives are not our own, but that our lives and bodies belong to the Lord for his glory. I live my life based on this truth and firmly believe that there would be less gender issues and insecurities, I think she means fewer, in children if they were raised knowing that they do not belong to themselves, but they belong to the Lord. Again, okay? I mean, this is a boring thing to say in church, but like, this ain't the assignment. What are you doing? Why are we doing this? This makes no sense. She kind of came close when she said, I disagree. But instead of backing it up with any evidence or explaining what the researchers got wrong, she just said accepting trans people or the tolerance of trans people is demonic. She then concluded, let's just finish this off. She concluded by returning to the sermon. Overall, reading articles such as this one encourage me to one day raise my children knowing that they have a heavenly Father who loves them and cherishes them deeply, and that having their identity firmly rooted in who he is will give them the satisfaction and acceptance that the world can never provide for them. My prayer for the world, and specifically for American society and youth, is that they would not believe the lies being spread from Satan that make them believe they are better off as another gender than what God made them. I pray that they feel God's love and acceptance as who he originally created them to be. Ma'am, this is an Arby's. What the hell are you doing? So, no one asked what her beliefs were about this stuff, not in the way she delivered it, and she didn't show any indication that she read the paper, that she understood the paper, and if she disagreed with it, what's she basing that disagreement on? Like, I saw that the paper said this. That the paper is wrong. How do I know that? Well, I don't like trans people. Like, that's a horrible way to write a paper. If you want to point to other research that maybe contradicts the conclusions of this one, that's what we should be seeing here. That's how a response paper works. Like, it's no wonder to me that she got a 0 on this paper. It's so bad that if she submitted this at Liberty University, they would have given her a 0 on this. Like, very much I'm thinking of the Billy Madison quotation. What is it? At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought, and everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. So, here's what happens. She writes that paper. Let me correct that. She writes that paper. She turns it in, she gets a 0, and then immediately she complains to the instructors of the course. And she's like, why'd I get a 0 on this? I did the work. And I will tell you that the instructors in this course were so much nicer than I feel like I would have been. And here's the thing. I know what the instructors said because this was also shared online. Check this out. And now I swear, you're already mad at her for writing that crappy essay. You're going to be even angrier at her when you see how kind her instructors are. Let me jump to this. Here we go. Here's the instructor. Please note that I am not deducting points because you have certain beliefs, but instead I am deducting points for you posting a reaction paper that does not answer the questions for this assignment. It contradicts itself, heavily uses personal ideology over empirical evidence in a scientific class, and is at times offensive. While you are entitled to your own personal beliefs, there is an appropriate time or place to implement them in your reflections. I encourage all students to question or challenge the course material with other empirical findings or testable hypotheses, but using your own personal beliefs to argue against the findings of not only this article, but the findings of countless articles across psychology, biology, sociology, etc., is not best practice. They don't need to say this at this point, but they kept going. You argue that abiding by normative gender roles is beneficial. It's perfectly fine to believe this. But to then say that everyone should act the same, while also saying that people are not pressured into gendered expectations, is contradictory, especially since your arguments reflect a religious pressure to act in gender stereotypical ways. You can say that strict gender norms don't create gender stereotypes, but that isn't true by definition of what a stereotype is. Please note that acknowledging gender stereotypes does not immediately denote a negative connotation, a nuance this article discusses. This article, which this woman did not read. Additionally, to call an entire group of people demonic is highly offensive, especially a minoritized population. You are entitled to your own beliefs, but this isn't a vague narrative of society pushes lies, but instead the result of countless years developing psychological and scientific evidence for these claims and directly interacting with the communities involved. You may personally disagree with this, but that doesn't change the fact that every major psychological, medical, pediatric, and psychiatric association in the United States acknowledges that biologically and psychologically, sex and gender is neither binary nor fixed. Someone send this to like Jerry Coyne and Dawkins and shit. I implore you apply some more perspective and empathy in your work. If you personally disagree with the findings, then by all means share your criticisms. But make sure to do so in a way that is appropriate and using the methodology of empirical psychology as aligned with the learning goals in this class. If you have any additional questions or concerns about this, or you would like some additional educational resources, I would be happy to discuss this further and provide you with them. That is such helpful, constructive feedback from this instructor saying, here's why I gave you a 0. I'm not failing you because I don't like your views. I'm failing you because you didn't do the assignment. You have no idea what psychology is, apparently. If you want to respond, you got to do it the right way. That's what the class demands. Meanwhile, this young woman is acting like she deserves a perfect score because she's a Christian. And the instructor is like, no, I'm giving you a 0 because you didn't do the work. Again, way nicer than this instructor had any right to be. And then check this out. After all of that, another instructor pops in. Samantha, I am the other instructor for this course, and I have also taken the time to read your paper. I concur with the first instructor on the grade you received. This paper should not be considered as a completion of the assignment. Everyone has different ways in which they see the world. But in an academic course such as this, you are being asked to support your ideas with empirical evidence and higher level reasoning. I find it concerning that you state at the beginning of your paper that you don't think bullying or teasing is a bad thing. In addition, your paper directly and harshly criticizes your peers and their opinions, which are just as valuable as yours. Disagreeing with others is fine, but there's a respectful way to go about it. That goes for discussion posts as well as reaction papers. Please employ more thoughtfulness in your future assignments. Wow. So again, now you have 2 instructors who are way nicer than they have any right to be, and they're just trying to explain why she's not getting credit on this paper, and she doesn't deserve any credit on this paper. So, are we all on the same page here? I hope. Like, she didn't react to the paper. I heard from a friend this week, and I mean that sincerely. I heard from someone I respect who said, I don't think she deserved a 0. I think she deserved a low grade, but she did respond to the paper, just not in the way anyone really hoped she would. And I still disagree with that assessment because any response paper, you have to actually respond to what is being said. You don't just say, oh, what's the topic about? Oh, it's about that. Then I'm just going to riff on that, and I don't care what the paper said. Like, you could read this entire response from Fulnecky and never learn a damn thing about what the actual original article actually said. That's why it's a bad response paper. And it wouldn't be hard to just incorporate her bigotry, her Christian bigotry, into an actual response. If she said, the article said this, and I quote, blah, 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 but not that is wrong. Not just because my religion teaches me that it's wrong, but because another article published here says the opposite conclusion. I might disagree with that, but that is the type of response you would expect to see. She did not do that. So that is basically what happened here. I think both instructors made clear we're not coming after you because of your beliefs or your views. And in fact, another reason we know that is because in an article published by the Oklahoman, check this out. Fulnecky said she has cited the Bible without issue on past assignments in the course, pointing to 2 essays she received full credit for. So she has talked about the Bible in other homework assignments for this class, and no one punished her for it. Because of course they didn't if she did the work. I don't know what everyone's upset about at this point. I've gotten a bad grade on a homework assignment in college. You know what I did? I didn't go public with it and blame the teacher because I'm mature. Anyway, so what did this woman do? What did Samantha Fulnecky do? She is a conservative who seems to think of herself as the next Riley Gaines. She wants to be the Riley Gaines of essay writing. She wants to fail upwards because the alternative is admitting you're just not that good compared to your peers. And in the conservative Christian world, all 5th place trophies deserve gold medals as long as you believe in Jesus. So what did this woman do? Samantha, instead of responding to the professors who wrote those thoughtful messages, she decided to send out an email. Who did she send an email to? Check this out. Fulnecky emailed Republican Governor Kevin Stitt, the OU's president, the dean of her college, members of the media, and Ryan Walters' conservative anti-teachers union group fewer than 4 hours after her instructor justified her grade. 4 days later, Fulnecky went through the university's internal process to file a formal discrimination complaint and an academic appeal. This woman got a bad grade, and she wrote an email to the governor saying, "Excuse me, governor, I think you need to step in. I got a 0, and I think we all know Christians don't deserve bad grades." Who does that? That is Christian privilege for you. You get a bad grade and you whine to your governor. What a loser. By the way, the last line here, like right over here, if she did have a problem with her grade, the last thing is the only thing she should have done, which is you're allowed to file a formal complaint and request an academic appeal. Every college has some sort of process like this. And listen, the right answer for the college is to be like, okay, we see your complaint. You're wrong. You still get a 0. That's what should happen here. But she wrote a letter to all the most powerful people in her state. And that's how she thought she would take care of this. She also said in a statement somewhere, let me see if I could pull this up here. Yeah, here we go. She said in her email to the governor, "In this situation, my instructor found it offensive to be quoting from the Bible." That's not at all what happened. "I don't believe I should receive a failing grade on an assignment based upon my opinion." That's not at all what happened. "I am reaching out to all of you to see if you can help me. To be," then she told the newspaper, "to be what I think is clearly discriminated against for my beliefs and using my freedom of speech, and especially for my religious beliefs, I think that's just absurd." None of that is what happened. This woman does not live in the real world where she could take to heart the fact that she ain't good at school. So, again, not punished for quoting the Bible. The professors were fine with her quoting the Bible, but you still have to respond to the paper. She wasn't punished for being a Christian. She was punished for turning in a crappy essay that didn't complete the assignment. So, if the goal of all of this was to get attention, guess what? She is getting that attention now. And like, honestly, if she wrote a better essay, it might be easier to argue that she was being discriminated against. But honestly, that paper is so embarrassing, you would have to be a moron to defend it. So guess who's defending it? That would be Turning Point USA, the Charlie Kirk group at University of Oklahoma. And I just want to, here's the beginning here. For a psych course at the University Oklahoma, Samantha was asked to write this essay. In her essay, this is what she said. She received 0 points, blah, blah, blah. But look at this that I highlighted. We at Turning Point OU stand with Samantha. We should not be letting mentally ill professors around students. Clearly, this professor lacks the intellectual maturity to set her own bias aside and take grading seriously. Professors like this are the very reason conservatives can't voice their beliefs in the classroom. My God, we are talking, this entire story so far has been about white people in Oklahoma, white conservatives in Oklahoma. And they're like, you know what we need here? A safe space. Because it's really hard for us as white conservatives in Oklahoma. And then this may be my favorite line of this whole thing. Kudos to Samantha for leading by example and standing for what she believes in. University of Oklahoma, do better. Yes, kudos to Samantha. No one... There are so many Turning Point chapters in Oklahoma, and none of them have anyone who knows English or basic grammar. Like, did Samantha Fulnecky write that caption too? Anyway, I will say I appreciated the comments right under this post because look at this. Look at this. This is like the most popular comment. Terrible essay. She cites 0 sources and appears to be barely literate. This is embarrassing. The rise of anti-intellectualism is honestly so sad. Those are people chiming in on Turning Point USA's thing. I also appreciated this comment that was somewhere on that list. I think she failed because it didn't follow the rubric and the essay sounds like it was written by a 10-year-old. So at the time she posted that, Governor Kevin Stitt had not responded, and the school came out initially with a generic statement saying, we have a process if you don't like your grade. That's filing the academic complaint, which Samantha did later. But after Turning Point USA posted that, and after people chimed in, all the right-wing politicians started chiming in as well. So first, let me show you State Senator Dusty Devers. He's like the most Republican-y senator with the porniest name. But he said this incident raises serious First Amendment concerns before saying this would never happen to a Muslim. Look at this. This is Dusty Devers. If a conservative professor gave a Muslim or transgender student a 0 for expressing their convictions, the university would treat it as a civil rights crisis. The standard must be the same when the student is a Christian. Listen, if a Muslim or a trans person wrote an essay that bad and then started complaining that they were victims of discrimination, you bet your ass we would make fun of them too, because they deserve it. So that's Dusty Devers for you. There's also this guy, Shane Jett. He is also a state senator. Let's see what he said here. This is grossly unacceptable. The University of Oklahoma has failed miserably yet again to address this malignant DEI cancer that has metastasized across every department. Why? Because they have standards? This is newest in a long list of grievances endured by our students at the University of Oklahoma. This is a failure of leadership. This institution has lost its moral compass and legitimacy. It is high time, ... Look at this. We should remove OU president Joseph Heraz and replace him with someone who has the moral courage to actually lead the university instead of this anemic, irresponsible, amoral placeholder. This guy wants to fire the president of the university because a Christian got a bad grade on one homework assignment. That's where Republicans are at today. This one also amused me. Justin Humphrey, he's a state representative, and he decided to issue a press release talking about himself in the third person. Representative Justin Humphrey today declared his public support of Samantha Fulnecky. I believe the instructor at OU, a graduate teaching assistant, violated the free speech rights of the student by giving her a failure grade for her Bible-based essay. None of these people could survive like one day in a 101 level class. And by the way, one thing I have not mentioned because it's irrelevant is that the instructor in question who gave Samantha the 0 is transgender. And it doesn't matter because, as the instructor pointed out in the response, I'm not grading you based on your beliefs. I'm grading you because you didn't do the assignment. And this is what one other state lawmaker said. This is Gabe Woolley. He's a state representative as well. And what do we get here? We just have misgendering. This individual is a man presenting himself as a woman. I don't know what he's gone through that led him down this path, and my heart genuinely breaks for him. But personal trauma and personal decisions do not grant anyone the authority to misuse their position or to demand that others affirm arguments that are completely unscientific. Basically saying the professor failed Samantha because the professor is trans. That's not why. I know that because Turning Point USA made the essay and the response from the professors very transparent. We saw what they said. We saw her essay. We can all read and find out how bad her essay is. Like, I would be embarrassed if a shitty paper I wrote went public by my supposed allies who are trying to show how I definitely did not deserve to be failed. It's like, oh no, you bared your entire ass, and now everyone can see you're not smart. Oh, what else should I show you? I forgot to show you this right here. This is Samantha's mother, Christy Fulnecky, who has the MAGA look. Christy has been spending days now just retweeting support of her daughter, retweeting anti-trans BS. And in case you're wondering, by the way, Christy Fulnecky is a lawyer who apparently defended the January 6th rioters. So that shows you what family we're talking about here. What else can I share with you? Some of you may be wondering, why would a student like Samantha even bother going to a public university? Clearly, she wants to be a fundamentalist Christian. Clearly, she can't do the work required of a public university. Why not lower your standards and just go to a Christian school? And I think the reason she didn't go to a Christian school is because at OU, she was there, as far as I could tell, on a tennis scholarship, which, you know what? If you earned it, good for you. This says that in the 2024-2025 school year, she was a redshirt freshman, which basically means they wanted her on the team, but she wasn't quite there as an athlete. So they just said, you're not going to play this year, but come to practices, learn how the team works, and you could start playing next year. And now we still get another 4 years of eligibility for you. And maybe the next 4 years, you'll be a better athlete. Like, that's a normal thing. College athletic programs do that all the time. You see it in basketball and football. So I think she went to the university because she was there on a tennis scholarship. And in fact, after her freshman year, I found this and I laughed out loud. At Oklahoma issued a press release. Oklahoma places 129 on the SEC Spring Academic Honor Roll. And if you scroll down this list of who made the honor roll, where do we have it? She's on here somewhere. Yeah, there she is. Women's tennis. There's Samantha right there. She made the academic honor roll for the SEC, which honestly at this point tells me more about the SEC's low standards than anything Samantha's doing in class. I will also show you that when I looked at the women's tennis roster this year, where theoretically she should be playing her first year of tennis where she's eligible to play, she is not on the roster. And I wonder what's up with that. Like, was she not good enough to actually make the team? Is she like just bitter against the school now? I have no idea, but I did find that curious. Let me wrap this up with a couple things here. Since all of this went viral, the University of Oklahoma has now issued a press release. And initially, this, like, I don't know why they felt like they have to respond to this, but they did. Like, the University of Oklahoma takes seriously concerns involving First Amendment rights. And they say, upon receiving notice from the student on the grading of an assignment, the university immediately began a full review of the situation and has acted swiftly to address the matter. You know what colleges never act quickly on when like serious shit happens at a college? How many times have we heard stories about college students getting assaulted or something and their school just drags their heels on doing anything about it? But man, Christian kid gets a 0. Boom. Gotta take care of that. The other thing I wanted to point out here is look right here at the top of this. The graduate student instructor has been placed on administrative leave pending the finalization of this process. To ensure fairness in the process, a full-time professor is serving as the course instructor for the remainder of this semester. So, what is going on there? It sounds very much like the trans professor who gave her the 0 so far is the only person to receive any kind of punishment for what has happened, even though this is very clearly like just a right-wing pile-on for someone who didn't deserve a better grade. And now they're taking it all out on the trans instructor who gave her the 0, when that's the only person who seems to have handled themselves correctly in all this. By the way, in response to that awful post from the University of Oklahoma, a lot of people chimed in with this meme, which I found funny. This is a math test. And if you say 2 plus 6 equals Jesus and 8 plus 3 equals Gob, and your teacher gives you 0 out of 20 F, and then you post, I think my math teacher hates me for my beliefs. And if you think that's funny because that's ludicrous and that would never happen, that's exactly what happened in this class. So the meme fits. So here's where we're at. At the end of the day, this is only about accountability. This is not about religious persecution. This is about Samantha Fulnecky's absolute refusal to accept any responsibility for the fact that she's a bad student. She didn't fail this assignment because she's a devout Christian. Guess what? It's Oklahoma. It's the University of Oklahoma. I guarantee you there were other Christians in that class. She didn't fail because she quoted the Bible. She did that in the past. That wasn't an issue. She didn't fail this assignment because she quoted the Bible. She failed because she didn't do the assignment. She didn't indicate she read it. She didn't indicate she understood anything it said. It's not clear she can form a response to the conversation people are actually having. Even an assignment like this is not a culture war battle. Sometimes you just have to do the work. All I learned from reading her essay is she's not prepared for psychology, much less medical school, which apparently is where she wants to go. She's not prepared for a world of higher education. And I don't know what her past education was like, but she is not prepared for whatever class she's taking right now. She's not prepared for higher education. She's frankly not prepared for lower education at this point. And what's weird is in the past couple of days, I have seen all these right-wing podcasters and Fox News channel. They've been really jumping on this. They're all on board the Samantha train. Like Riley Gaines has to be feeling jealous right now. Like, wow, everyone's supporting another Christian loser? Like, that's my thing. I don't know why we're doing this. Like, again, all she had to do is be thoughtful and do the assignment. And if she got punished because she cited the Bible, she might actually have a case, but that's not what happened here. So, I don't know. That's the persecution narrative. It's very strong. It's very lucrative on the right. And it's frustrating that this is what everyone's arguing about. But I encourage anybody, if you're unhappy with this outcome and you think she was being persecuted, go read the article and you tell me why a college junior thinks that's worthy of an A plus, or at least a higher score than a 0. Because honestly, a 0 is being generous. She should not be in that class at this point. It's embarrassing that other classmates of hers have to deal with this. And it's especially got to be frustrating for the instructor who did everything right and is the only person getting punished here. By the way, that instructor recently got an award for doing something in the field of psychology. I don't know what it was, but the Department of Psychology at the University of Oklahoma posted on Facebook, hey, congrats to this grad student who got this award. We're super proud of this person. And when I went to go check, that post was deleted. And I think that's probably because right-wing trolls probably brigaded the comment section on that post. But also, like, where's the university? Why aren't any of these people at the school, in the governor's office? Why is nobody standing up for the teacher in question? Because if Christians can get away with whining and getting media attention because they failed a class that they deserve to fail, or failing an assignment they deserve to fail, which, by the way, if you do the math, it's like 3% of her grade. It's not much. If they can get attention for this, for work they didn't do, like I'm not surprised that's why the right-wing media is jumping on board, because there's nothing they love more than giving themselves lower standards and then pretending that they are somehow raising the bar because they're better than those lower standards. Like, the solution is not let's reward people who can't do the work. It's let's hold everyone to a higher standard, but they can't do that on the right. Oh, I don't know what else to say here. Let's stop there. I don't even know how long it's been at this point. What questions we got here, Dan? Thank you for your poorly worded, illogical letter. After review, we have lowered your grade to absolute 0. Have a nice day. Now, see, that's the message the grad students should have sent her. That would have been blunt and to the point, and she deserved it. Thank you for being a member for 16 months. Love it. Thank you. That's the way Christian people think. They are right, and if you disagree, you're being deceived by the devil. And the thing is, not all Christians, hashtag, not all Christians. But if that is the way you think, one, you shouldn't be at a public university. But two, like, the whole point of the assignment is you could absolutely say, whoever wrote this paper is wrong. Here's why they're wrong. And by the way, it's not just academia that says this paper is wrong. The Bible says this person is wrong. You could absolutely have said that. She didn't do it because she didn't do the work. Well, wait, is God non-binary in this paper's lore? Why? What did they say? Did they use the pronoun them and their or something? I must have missed that. I mean, I know she referenced him, he, his, whatever. I will show this. Go ahead and get to that question, the next one. I think I missed it, but what is the class name and level? I will show you this from the New York Times. Right here. The assignment in the lifespan development class was to read this article. I don't know, like, in college, people of different ages may take different classes at different times, but Samantha, I believe, is a junior, and this is, like I said, lifespan development class. It's one of those classes you could take on the road to getting a psych major. To be honest, I don't see how espousing her religious views on the subject is engaging the assigned article at all. That is correct. Again, there is a way to work it in. But if that's all you're doing, you could have done the same response to a professor who just said, tell me your thoughts about gender binary or trans people. And you could have written the same paper, which means the paper was not a response to the thing they had to read. Thank you for that donation. How dare you demand she actually follow the requirements for the assignment and that she actually read the paper as assigned? Also, trans rights are human rights because trans people are people. I know, it's shocking. Heresy. I was looking at Hershey for a second. No, I know. It's heresy. Like, this idea that we're not asking you to, like, agree with what liberals say, I guess, but your classmates are here. You can't just say everyone who disagrees with you on this topic is demonic. Like, you can just say, I don't agree with them. Here's why. Pretty sure that's not what the Hebrews says. Are you referring to like that Ezer thing? So I checked the Hebrew. It just means helper. It makes no mention of being equal in any of the definitions. Interesting. I did not know that. That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for that donation. She's going to have fun in grad school. What grad school is going to take her? I did have that question. Like, she wants to go to med school. As a brown person who has been to med school, she is not going to make it. I promise you. Like, that's not a bad thing. You don't have to go to med school, but like, girl, cut your ties while you can. Find a new major. Because, like, again, a more difficult academic path forward is not in your best interests. Become a red shirt grad student and find a different path.